follow in their footsteps. I chose the readings and also the hymns this morning to tie in with my topic. And I guess some of it is, as you read, some of my humor, I guess it comes out. But in the sermon today, it's religious domestication, or say what? And I think what's happening now today in our society, at least if we watch news and if it's online and so forth, it kind of, you know, to me, it's like, oh, what? You know, what's next and that type of thing. And the question to me comes back is, where did all this originate from? Where did the different beliefs come from? So on and so forth. And what I use for my resource is the four agreements. And I don't know, the four agreements is well, it comes from the religion or the philosophy of the Toltecs, which the Toltecs were in South Mexico City. And their concept, the first part, is they talk about how we learn these things. And first of all, when we're born, obviously, you know, you don't have prejudice, you don't have you know, your speech or anything else. Of course, if you've been listening to the confirmation, I guess there's some things that people want to know if a baby is a racist coming from, and that's a hard one to answer, but of course not. Okay, so we learn the things, first of all, generally from our parents, and which would be the speech, which would be, you know, what makes you feel good. A lot of it's personal, when you get fed, so on and so forth, diapers change, and security. From that time, when you grow a little older, you're influenced by, obviously I said the language, then also your friends, people around you. And then of course, when you get to school, first thing you're told a lot of times is, you know, sit, be quiet. And that's another thing that you learn. And so these things start to develop. But many times what happens is we forget the concept is that everybody around the world is doing the same thing. So, you know, they don't speak English all throughout the world. And so those languages are learned at that time. So forth. Then as you progress with this, and what they call the domestication is, it can be things that comes out as faith. It can be out, you know, you're in church, your religious type training. And of course, many of us had come from different backgrounds. Maybe before we became a Unitarian. I'd like to just tell a little bit about myself. I mean, I was raised in a Christian, it was not a real strict part of the congregational church, but in a Republican family. And I was a Republican. I didn't know why, but it's because my parents were. And in fact, at one time, I was even head of Woodbury County Young Republicans. And here about last year, when things were happening and we had our famous past president, I had a friend of mine who loved him, and he says, well, what happened to you? You know, and I said, no, I didn't leave the Republican Party. It left me. I have no, you know, but what changed me? What happened? Well, I had two key readings that I'll just tell you the title. The one as far as humanity and what has happened and what religion did. I think Manifest Destiny, for example, is in the book of I Buried My Heart in Wounded Knee. I read that in the early 70s. Oh my, I had to put it down from time to time because of just the cruelty of it all. And of course, then it brings up the Manifest Destiny that whites and that type of thing are going to, it was their duty to Christianize them, and so on and so forth. And so that was one of the books that really opened my eyes and started forming what I felt towards society and indigenous people and other races. The other one, politically, I read and was required. I was a senior at the time, college, and the book we were required to read was 1,000 Days about Kennedy. I read that and I thought, you know, if I was going to be president, I wanted to be just like him. I believed in what he believed in, so on and so forth. And so here I started to change. So I share this with the fact that maybe this is the same thing that's happened to many of you, that you did not were born into the Unitarian Church, but you made the decision, you know, and one of the main things that I'll be mentioning and talking about is how does this come about? And one is something about Unitarians that we look at by reason, and the other one is science. We study science. You know, we just don't poo-hoo the thing. You know, like what is going on too, with the type of thing, you know, and for some reason it seems like there's more of it out. The evangelical religions, and you know that actually you believe everything in the Bible, and Jonah did get swallowed by a whale, and of course the good one too is Noah. You know, just imagine, you know, all those from those single ones reading, and what happened to the ones that didn't get onto the boat. The other one I kind of here bringing it up to date. In fact, I just saw it this morning on YouTube that one of our congressmen said the word, well, if we came from apes, why are there still apes? Many ways this disturbs me that there's this type of thought process out there. Yeah, and well, and the other one too is not quite what we're talking about today, but on the same word. This one too just got me, is that the woman asked the candidate for the Supreme Court to find a woman. Well, thank God she did not fall into her trap, you know. Well, now this woman says, I can't vote for her because she doesn't know what a woman is. I'm thinking, what are we talking anatomically? I mean, what are we, you know, what are we talking about? I think what she was getting at is to get down to the fact that what are you going to put on the bathroom doors? You know, is gender identification, so on and so forth. And again, those things disturb me. You know, obviously the past president disturbed me a lot too, but at the same time, he had that support and he fostered. And the people that, you know, thought along those ways or had, and I've shared it with people here during coffee hour, but in my family, as far as I know, what I found out, I'm still the only one who became a Democrat. In fact, my sister, who is a Pentecostal evangelical, the hoe, and you know, if you don't believe in Jesus, you're just not going to make it. You're not going to get to heaven. There's so on and so forth. But she was out there in Washington, D.C., January 6th. I mean, I could have thrown up. I want to. And supposedly, she wasn't part of as far as attacking the Capitol. She was with a group of individuals that were sitting along the reflected pool and praying for the election to be overturned. So anyway, that's I try to be nice and smile sometimes when I talk to her. But see, these are the things that kind of brings us to what I'm talking about, that we have these pressures on us. So how do we develop our own, our own philosophies and so on and so forth? Another kind of a personal story that, and you know him, and I love telling this story. This is my grandchild, Finn Peterson. They came to this church. They have such moved, and he grew up in a family that he was open to research, read whatever he wanted, and they would support. He was a little unique. I always remember we were up there taking care of him, and we went to the store, and he wanted to buy this thing, and he brings it up, puts it on the counter, and says, he's 2 now. I'd like to purchase this rescue unit. And this woman looks at him and says, how old are you? And he says, I was 2 this past December. And then he goes on, he says, and there's paramedics in it. This woman was about ready with it. Meanwhile, we go outside, it was spring, and he had little yellow rubber ducky boots on, and he's splashing in the water. So he could go to pull. So this is to give you a little clue about him. At approximately 9 years old, 9 or 10, he announces, and his dad had built him the coolest treehouse in the back. I would have lived in it. Anyway, we're going to read the Bible, and we're going to find out if Jesus existed or not. Now, he's 10 years old. Now, I didn't say anything, no one else did. Time passed, and I finally said, what'd you come to the conclusion? Well, he says, we couldn't find enough information that said that he existed, and we didn't find enough information that he did not exist. And again, that's, at least he's processing and thinking. And finally, with him, his other grandfather, not this one, other grandfather is a Baptist. And at Christmas time, he likes to sit around and he quizzes the grandchildren about the Bible. So he can probably shame parents. And he throws out these questions. Well, lo and behold, Finn answers every one of them. He looks at him and he says, well, you don't go to church, your parents don't believe in this. And Finn looks at his grandfather and he says, oh, Grandpa, it's just history. So I think some of these things that we take and how we start, well, obviously he's reading, he's processing, and that would be something a gift that I'd like to give to some of my family members. But anyway, okay. The other thing right now, why I've talked a little bit how we become religious, and we know that depending on where we live, what it's going to be. But why do people stay in that? And what I'd like to share with you is the Maslow's Hierarchy of Needs. This, it was done in about, I believe it's about 1943, 44. He was a psychologist, Maslow was. And what he did was in a pyramid, in the shape of a pyramid, basically listed the needs of the human species. And it started off at the low end is the physiological ones. And that means breathing, that's a need, breathing, food, water, sex, sleep, excretion, body excretion. These are the basic physiological needs. Now, once those are met, sometimes we go to the next thing, and it's safety. And we're looking at the security of the body. We're looking at employment. and resources. Morality starts coming in. It's to the family, morality of the family, morality of people around you, and maybe you can start seeing how this can start filtrating into to religion and different things in that area. Of course, the other thing is health and property. Then the third rung up is love and belonging, and it's internship, family, sex, and sexual intimacy. And then I'm going to go on. The next one is esteem, and that's self-esteem, confidence, achievement, respect for others, and respect for oneself, and also to be respected by others. So you respect people and they in return respect you. Finally, at the top of the pyramid is self-actualization, and morally, creatively, spontaneous problem solving. It's also trained to be a lack of prejudice, acceptance of facts. And as you know, some people probably don't get to that top. But the reason I use this is it can be used why people stay in religions or of mindset. And where they use them is the top three, which is love and belonging, esteem, and self-actualization. All you have to do is maybe turn on and hear one of these guys that has a nice looking suit on, and he's usually fairly good looking, and he has hair, and he, and it's well groomed, and he's going to tell you how you're going to, live a better life. Meanwhile, you should get some money, but and he has it. In other words, he solved everything. All you have to do is believe the way he believes or what he's talking about. So we do the. I'll never forget one time. I was going through maybe a divorce. I'm living alone. Okay, going through a few mental things, but anyway, on TV is this evangelist, and he says, "Okay, I want you to get up right now and come over and touch the screen, and you'll be saved." And I'm thinking that thing was taped. How long ago? I had no idea. So that didn't work for me either. So using those things, other reasons that people stay in certain beliefs is fear. If you're in certain, for example, it can be bodily harm. Now, as we know, wars have been fought over beliefs in religion, and they're going on right now. And so people adapt to that, and sometimes it's difficult for them to, think outside the box. And the one book that I read, and it's called Black Sheep, and it's by Cassie Fox, and the name of it is Her Journey. It's my journey from evangelical Christianity to atheism. And she ended up being a minister of the evangelical. In fact, she went 4 years, but she grew up in that type of environment with the family and the church. And it was very difficult for her to leave. She felt she was got down, so on and so forth. Other things started happening in her life. One is that she had a child. In those days, I guess, out of wedlock type of thing. Anyway, the church that she was the minister of, would not accept that at all. So she was actually had fear to talk to other people about these things, how she was feeling, how she didn't feel that, you didn't really need to know Jesus to get to heaven if there was a heaven. So, as in her journey, she found a group of people that would listen to her, would not judge her, and guess who they were? Unitarians. So she ended up being connected with the Unitarian Church. And through this process, and I think, well, the name of it being the black, black sheep, is she was the black sheep, but out of the herd where everyone was just following along. And it was a good read. And other things too that I found in researching, different things that Ben Franklin said, and I know one of them, I don't know if I'm doing it correct, but it's the fact that it's something about, religion is one of the worst things ever put on man, but what would man be with if it didn't have religion? He was questioning that. He thought maybe they'd be just taking care of each other and not in a positive way. Okay. In closing, I'd like to share with you the poem, which was a song by John Lennon called Imagine. Imagine there's no heaven. It's easy if you try. No hell below us, above us only sky. Imagine all the people living for today. Imagine there's no countries. It isn't hard to do, nothing to kill or die for, and no religion too. Imagine all the people living the life of peace. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will be as one. Imagine no possessions. I wonder if you can. No need for greed or hunger. A brotherhood of man, imagine all the people sharing the world. You may say I'm a dreamer, but I'm not the only one. I hope someday you'll join us and the world will live as one. And on a lighter note, if you have any other questions about what I've said today, please just ask a 10-year-old. And then we go from there. Thank you very much.
Oh,